اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ربي زدني علما ربي زدني علما ربي زدني علما ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to continue from where we last left off. 5 weeks ago, we understood what is Rabb. Because Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. The word Rabb comes in Quran hundreds of times. And the word Rabb in Quran has come in conversation with the prophets before. So today I would like to start out with a conversation between Musa alayhi salam and Fir'aun. The very first conversation that they had. So Musa alayhi salam in Surah Taha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when he approached Fir'aun, he said, me and my brother, we have come to you as a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we're going to give you two options. Right away, two options. فَأَرْسِلْ مَعَنَا بَنِي إِسْرَائِيل. Either let the children of Israel leave with us. We're going to take care of them. We're going to be the leaders. Because you're not taking care of them. وَلَا تُعَذِّبْهُمْ. And in the meanwhile, if you are planning on keeping them, then do not punish them. What have they done to you? They are your citizens. So treat them well. And make use of them. They are your power. They are your manpower. But don't treat them awfully. And if you are guided, and if you become righteous, then there is no point of us leaving. We'll all live in harmony. قَدْ جِئْنَاكَ بِآيَةٍ مِّن رَبِّكَ. We have come to you with the signs. And these signs, now notice the word, Musa a.s. does not say that I have come to you with signs from my Lord or our Lord. He says from your Lord. Why? Because Fir'aun's mindset was, I am the Lord. These are all idols, but I am supreme than the idols. And he in fact said that, Ana Rabbukumul A'la. I'm your supreme Rabb. Because you give everything to these idols, but I am the one who give everything to you. So if I don't give it to you, how can you do offerings to these idols? So I am your Rabb, the supreme Rabb. So it was very important for the Fir'aun to be realized that there is a Rabb, an actual Rabb, and you are not the Rabbul A'la. And then on top of that, Musa alayhi salam said, okay, there is another option. وَالسَّلَامُ عَلَى مَنِ اتَّبَعَ الْهُدَى. Anybody who comes in peace with us and take the right path shall be guided. And we are the prophets, follow us. That was a very open and clear message. إِنَّا قَدْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيْنَا. Because we have this connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He sends revelation on us, me and my brother. إِنَّا قَدْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيْنَا أَنَّ الْعَذَابَ عَلَى مَنْ كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى. Anybody who does not follow the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will punish. Now notice the words over here. Musa alayhi salam did not say, Allah will put you in hellfire. Musa alayhi salam says, it has been revealed to us that anybody who does not follow the right path after the right path is revealed to him and denies it, كَذَّبَ وَتَوَلَّى, and then turns away, that person shall be treated with punishment. So he did not own punishment like we do. We right away tell people you will burn in hellfire. We have no control over it. There are people who have been in a situation where you would look at them and you're like, oh my God, this person, if he continues to do this, no way he can get out of hellfire. But later on in their life, you look at them 180 degree different. They're in fact more pious than you are. And if you look at yourself, you probably are not as pious as you were in the past. It just happened. So many people actually go away from the right path. So many people actually come towards the right path. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to tell us, you have no right to judge anybody. You can only deliver the message, but you have no right to judge anybody. You cannot pass the verdict, this person will going to go in hell and this person will going to go in heaven. You can just say, if you keep following this route will going to lead you to the wrong place. So Musa a.s. gives this clear message to Fir'aun. And Fir'aun, instead of questioning Musa a.s., this is the reason I'm bringing the question of Rabb over here, that instead of telling Musa, okay Musa, tell me your message. Okay Musa, do this. Okay Musa, do that. Okay, I agree with you or don't agree with you. He right away asked Musa a.s. a question. قَالَ فَمَنْ رَبُّكُمَا يَا مُوسَى. Who is this Rabb that you're talking about? Who is he? It is not like Fir'aun was not familiar with this Rabb. Because the children of Israel was under his occupation for a very long time. He was familiar with the Rabb. But he wanted to know this Rabb. And as a believer, now we are the believer, Fir'aun was not a believer. Do we know our Rabb is the question. And that is the whole idea of going into this whole argument of how Quran explains this Rabb and how this Rabb explains himself. That who am I? Because we are the believers. And Musa alayhi salam actually responded to Fir'aun. So this is a one-on-one live conversation. It's not like he has written a letter to Moses and then Moses will think and write a response back. He says right away to Fir'aun, now he changes the word. He changes how he is addressing things. Earlier on he said that your Rabb, Fir'aun. Now he says, Rabbuna, our Rabb. Your Rabb, my Rabb. Rabb of everybody. Rabbuna alladhi a'ta kulla shay. Our Rabb is the one who gives everything. He's our Rabb. You're not our Rabb. You don't give everything. You only give some of the things. So how can you say, I'm Rabbukum al-A'la, I'm the Supreme Lord? You don't give life. You don't give death. If somebody gets sick, you cannot cure it. You cannot make somebody feel sick if the person is healthy. So what kind of Rabb are you? It is our Rabb. أَعْطَى كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلْقَهُ. He creates everything and not just leaves it. ثُمَّ هَدَى. And then he guides whatever he creates. Look at us. Like we are human beings. When we were sent to this planet Earth, what were we? We did not even know how to feed ourselves. Now we feed others. Now we take care of others. When we were in a situation we could not read or write or speak. Now we are able to do a lot of those things very efficiently. So he guides us. Even if a person lives out nomadly in like middle of nowhere, that person with a period of time has some intelligence, some intellect. Who gives him that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Musa alayhi salam is trying to tell Fir'aun that my Rabb is not like you. He is the one who creates and guides. So this is the starting point of today, where we look at that Allah is the Rabb, which is the aspect of Islam and understanding of the Rabb is called the Rububiyyah of the Rabb. The things that are part of the guardianship. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a guardian, as a caretaker, how does He do certain things with us? And in a lot of these ayahs that I'll be sharing with you, you will notice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put so much emphasis on two things. One, farming. Number two, the resources. And one of the resources that is constantly talked about is water. And if you notice, a lot of the problems in this world are related to these two things. Water and food. When we ran into the problems of feeding people, we genetically mutated. So now we are in the middle of organic and non-organic food. A lot of the places in the world, people do not have access to clean, fresh water. So a lot of the organizations are going there and doing what? They're digging in wells, they're looking for funds, trying to make sure somehow the water can get to these people. Even these days, 1400 years down the road, the problems are still there. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts out by telling us what kind of Rabb am I. In Surah Al-Hijr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا عِنْدَنَا خَزَائِنُهُ. That we have deposits of everything. It's not like whatever we have given you and that's it. We have like depositories of everything. وَمَا نُنَزِّلُهُ إِلَّا بِقَدَرٍ مَعْلُومٍ. And when we send down anything to you, in any shape or any form, we have a total count of it. It's in a perfect measurement, and we keep the count of it. Like we don't know how much rain will going to come down. He knows. And He even knows how much rain to send down. And why to send down this much rain. What will be the benefit of this much rain to who? And how much disaster of this rain will be to who? When the snow comes down, you and I are crying out loud. And like, why? The farmers are happy. At the same time, the people who are calculating the water reservoirs, they're happy because all the snow will going to sustain the fresh waters. Less snow means the water level goes down. So all of these things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that do not think that I just send down things like, for no counting. For everything there is a biqadarim ma'loom. Ma'loom means I know it. Biqadar means the quantity I give you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a count of everything. In another place in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ra'd, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ عِنْدَهُ بِمِقْدَارٍ. Everything and anything that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows the proportion and the measure of those things, the quantity. So it's not like He gives you things out of no counting of it. And in Surah Al-Qamar, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَاهُ بِقَدْرٍ. Everything that I have created in proportion, and I know the count. That is why in other places in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I will ask you on the day of judgment the blessings that I gave you. Because there is a count. So when there is a count, only then I can figure out. For example, in a workplace, if I give somebody a petty cash, I know how much petty cash I gave. So when I ask this person to give me an itemized result of this petty cash, now I'm backing up everything based on the amount I gave. So if I don't know how much I gave, how can I hold this person accountable? This person can give me any figure and any number, and I'll be saying, okay, you must be right. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a count of everything. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that something as simple as water, I can cause it to cause drought. I can cause it to cause semi-drought when I don't give you enough. I can give you enough so that it's a blessing. Or I can give you abundance so it's a flood. It's my choice. I do whatever I wish. But I'm not unjust. To us, a lot of the things that happen around us, we think they're unjust because we are only thinking in our limited capacity. Notice what happened in between Musa and Qadri. Qadri broke the ship, killed the boy, fixed the wall. And in all three cases, Moses was like, why would you break somebody's boat who helped you? Why would you kill a kid, a perfectly fine kid? And why would you build a wall of a village that refused to feed you? But when he gave the reasonings to Moses, Moses was like, wow, you broke the boat because there was a king ahead who was catching only the good boats. So you're actually helping these guys by breaking their boat a little bit. The kid that you killed was in the future life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you this knowledge, was supposed to be a big tyrant kafir. So Allah saved the world from this guy and in fact gave the parents a daughter in place of that son who married a prophet and was extremely beneficial to the parents. And the wall that you fixed, underneath that was a treasure of orphans. So these are the things that are hidden from us. We only see this much. And based on that, we start making assumptions of why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did this to us. Because we don't have the whole long picture in front of us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِي نَزَّلَ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who sends down water from where? From the sky. بِقَدَرٍ. And He knows the quantity, how much He's sending you. We calculate it afterwards with different kind of meters. 2 inches, 1 inch, 1.5 inches. But we don't yet know why 2 inches. Why 3 inches? Why half an inch? He knows. Why? فَأَنْشَرْنَا بِهِ بَلْدَةً مَيْتًا. And when it comes down, what happens? The dead things come to life. Dead things come to life. Now when our grasses are dead in the summertime, especially in this region, especially now when the temperatures are above 80 degrees, we're kind of hoping a week-long rain. I don't mind my grass growing tall, well, at least it'll be green. But that's not happening. Today it was cloud and people were saying it'll probably rain, drizzle, and that's it. And now it's chillier. Who can say it was so warm yesterday? So who's controlling all these things? And there's a reason behind all of these things. Now, I remember that living in Arabian Peninsula, there's a time in the summer when temperatures are unbearably hot. You cannot sit in your car and hold your steering wheel. You can't. It's so hot. If by mistake, and this is only for going to Jummah and coming back, that's it, it's half an hour. Those little thing that you open your doors with, you can't touch them with your bare hands. You usually put a cloth between your hand and the handle. If you leave a ballpoint, it's like over 50 degrees Celsius, like over 125 degrees Fahrenheit. If you leave the old cassettes, remember, or a ballpoint on your dashboard, it will actually melt. In that weather, you're like, oh my God, why? But the byproduct of that weather is that your dates are ripe. Your date need that kind of heat to become ripe. Otherwise, they will not going to have food. So those 2-3 months are very important for dates. If they don't get enough heat, you will not going to have good dates. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything has a reason. Sometimes, we wonder why, but everything has a reason because there's a whole ecosystem running around us. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Ash-Shura says, وَلَكِنْ يُنَزِّلُ بِقَدَرٍ مَا يَشَاءُ. He sends down whatever He wish. He gives you whatever He wish. Why? إِنَّهُ بِعِبَادِهِ خَبِيرٌ بَصِيرٌ. Your king may sleep at night. He may not be aware of you all the time. But who am I? I am Khabir, all-knowing. I am Basir, all-seeing. I am the one who is the true Rabb. During the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, reported by in Sahih al-Bukhari, narrated by Anas ibn Malik, he said we were sitting in Masjid al-Nabwi. It was the Jummah time. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was actually delivering the khutbah. And a man walked into the masjid like this. Some of the people had no etiquettes. They were not trained yet. And in the middle of the khutbah, he interrupted and said, "O Prophet, ask your Lord to give us the rain. It's not raining. We need rain." Then Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the middle of the khutbah, stopped and prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, please send us rain." And Anas says that I was not inside the covered area of the masjid. I was sitting outside of the covered area. And I noticed from nowhere the clouds gathered and it was raining. Right at the end of the dua. And it rained for 1 full week. The streets of the Medina was getting filled with water. Next Jummah in the middle of the khutbah, the same man came and said to the Prophet Muhammad, "Please ask your Lord to stop the rain. It has rained too much." Then Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam raised his hand and said, "Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, please take these clouds and make the area around the settlement rain. So that, there are other things that can still continue to grow. But at least the settlements will be saved from all this water because they did not have a good system of taking the water out." So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have easily stopped the rain when it was abundant. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to tell people this miracle of the Prophet. That by his dua the rain started, by his dua the rain ended. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all khabir and all basir. He's all knowing and all seeing. So when the request came from his Prophet, he fulfilled it right away. And benefited everybody. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Yasin that not only this, Look at your day and night system. وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا. You will notice that your sun is in an orbit, your moon is in an orbit, and your sun and moon combination give you your day and nights. وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍّ لَهَا ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. And the sun is going only in its orbit, only in its own rotation. And sun is actually, everybody in our solar system is going around sun, but the solar system is also going around something. Which is going around something? This whole universe comprises of billions of galaxies. And it's constantly expanding. And this entire universe in front of the kursi, وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. His kursi is holding on top of entire heavens and earth. Kursiyu samawati wal ard. The entire universe in front of the kursi is like a little bracelet in a big land. And the kursi in front of the arsh is like a little bracelet in a big land. This is basically, think about how small are we in this universe in front of arsh. Yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the power and made us the caretaker of the earth and the universe. So look at our power and look at our size. And yet we constantly fail. Yet there are good people who work hard and strive. So the idea is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us everything to sustain. وَالشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ وَالنُّجُومِ. The sky is filled with all these things, the sun, the moon, and the stars. مُسَخَّرَاتٍ بِأَمْرِهِ. He has ordered them to follow your directions. How is stars following my direction? If you have ever been lost at the night time, how do you find direction? Stars. The stars. Stars tell you the direction. There is a north star, which shows you the direction, which direction is north. If you look at the compass, which is the most evident point? North. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, because we have light pollution, it's much better over here as compared to Chicago, but you can see far more stars now than you could see anywhere else. But the idea is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given all of these things to us to make sure that we are benefiting from them. In Surah Al-An'am, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَالِقُ الْأَصْبَاحِ. Faliq is like cleaver. Like the butcher has a cleaver by which he cuts the meat and spreads the meat. And if you notice how the sunlight takes over the night, that's what basically faliq means. Like, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. So faliq means something that takes over by spreading. So as the sunlight spreads, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, who am I? فَالِقُ الْأَصْبَاحِ. I am the one who spreads the light. وَجَعَلَ اللَّيْلَ سَكَنًا. I am the one who has made it easier for you to rest at night. وَالشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ حُسْبَانًا. And I am the one who have ordered the sun and the moon to go in cycles. Why? ذَلِكَ تَقْدِيرُ الْعَزِيزِ الْعَلِيمِ. Because this is how I want things to be done for you. I am almighty and all-knowing. So this is where we talk about the rububiyyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in terms of the solar system and the ecosystem. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't just stop here. He says, who am I? I am the sole owner, the only owner. If you look around you, the king is not the sole owner. Why? If you look at the king of England, for example, in old times, or even now, they only have certain resources. They don't have everything. They're reliant upon some other king for other resources. And that person is reliant upon somebody else. Look at Japan. Japan produces so many cars in the world, one of the better cars in the world, but they don't have iron deposits. All the steel that they use in their car is imported from outside. So such a big automaker country has no iron ore to rely on. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done this check and balance so that everybody has a part in this big pizza. Everybody can get a little slice out of it. But He, when He talks about Himself, says, وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ شَرِيكٌ فِي الْمُلْكِ. For me, there is no partner in my ownership. I'm the sole owner. وَخَلَقَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. And I created everything. فَقَدَّرَهُ تَقْدِيرًا. And I gave everything its due measurement. In Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about in Surah Al-Hadid that I have sent down the iron from the skies. So iron was not part of the creation of the earth. Iron was actually rained on the planet Earth. And we have deposits of hadid. Is basically, there is Surah Al-Hadid. Hadid means iron. So iron actually came out through a meteor shower or whatever process. So there was a time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, now this planet is now ready for iron. Let me produce some iron here. And by the time humanity will need iron, it will mature enough to be used. And there's a certain quantity of iron Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down on this planet Earth, and He knows how much when we look at this meteor shower, we're like, okay, we don't know there are so many meteors, but He knows how many and what is their weight. And why is He giving so much? He knows it. We don't know. Think about it. Dinosaurs. Huge entities died millions of years before we came. What does that dying process do? The dying process gave us carbon deposits. Those dying processes, now these huge animals gave huge carbon deposits. Now what do we do out of those carbon deposits? Where does your coal come from? Where does your diamond come from? Where does your oil come from? So over the period of time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done, we don't know. We have just found dinosaurs. Who else existed? What else existed? What happened here? We don't know. The entire creation of the earth came through a process of evolution, which we're going to talk about inshallah maybe starting next week, where we go into the creation of Adam in 7 steps. There are 2 different things that happen in the worldly affairs. One is called Alam Amr and one is called Alamul Khalq. Alamul Amr means He orders something and it happens right away. Kun fayakun. Happens right away. When it says Alamul Khalq, it means something will be created out of something that already exists. So Adam was created from clay. Clay already existed. And the clay was taken through 7 stages before that clay was ready that a soul can be embarked in it. And when the soul was embarked in it, a new process started after that this new entity is now combined with a soulmate, and now the reproduction should happen through another process. So the original creation was a new phase, and now the production is a totally new phase. So khalaqa means thing has been created from an existing entity. Amr means thing has been created from nothing. And these ayahs have come in the Quran. In Surah Al-A'raf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَلَا لَهُ الْخَلْقُ وَالْأَمْرُ. Beware, it is only His place to sometimes produce through the process of khalq and sometimes produce through the process of amr. It is His place. He does it. How He does it. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in another place in Surah Al-Rum says, Allahu alladhi khalaqakum. Now this is where you're talking about old age, right? Earlier on. Allahu alladhi khalaqakum. Allah is the one who created you. Min du'afin. From weakness. When a baby is born, very weak. Min du'afin. Thumma ja'ala min ba'di du'afin quwwah. After the weakness, He gives you power. Okay? Thumma ja'ala min ba'di quwwatin. After the period of strength is gone, now notice the word. Allah now changes one word with 2 words. What was the word before? Du'afa. Now He says, Du'afa wa shayba. Not only you're weak, now you're also old. Okay? There was a weakness towards the strength. Now the weakness is toward decay. It's 2 different processes. This is the Quran. So Quran opens these things for us and says, يَخْلُقُ مَا يَشَاءُ. He creates whatever He likes. وَهُوَ الْعَلِيمُ الْقَدِيرُ. And He's all-knowing and all-powerful. Now look at the Prophet. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he entered Medina, he was 53 years old. Abu Bakr was 2 years younger, was 51 years old. But when they entered the Medina, people mistake Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam for a young man because all his hair were black. His skin was perfectly fine. His hands were very powerful like a young man. And Abu Bakr, everything was all white. They said, oh, looks like, an old man. More intellectual, more knowledgeable. This got to be the Prophet. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that age kept him just like a young man. Anas ibn Malik says when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ passed away at the age of 63, how many white hair he had? I could count them. I could count the number of white hair he had. And this man was such that if you shake hands with him, his hands were so soft, as if you're going into something very, very soft and comfy. But when he would show his strength, none of us could bear it. Because in the battle of Hunain, when all these companions were running away, when they came across 30,000 people, they were running away. And only a handful of them were left. And the companions say, we were taking shield behind the Prophet Muhammad and he was going forward and we are trying to pull him back. And this man is around 60 years old at that time. With that valor and that zealor, he's going forward. And Prophet Muhammad's cousin and his uncle, Prophet Muhammad was riding a mule. They were saying that we could not dare to say, Prophet, stop. You should not go this fast. So rather what we were doing is, we were holding on to his saddle. And we were pushing the saddle down. So that his pace is slower. So he doesn't go that fast. But the man is 60 years old. So Allah, whatever He wishes does. Whoever He wants to keep young will keep young. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ touched the hair of a man with love and compassion. And he lived till the age of 120 years old. But his hair were extremely black. Except for the few hair. Except for a few hair. So, this is the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whoever He wish, whatever He wish, He does it. Now you have seen people who smoke all their life, 92 years old, 96 years old, when they pass away, no heart problem, no lungs disease, nothing. There are people who smoke less than them, they die in their 40s. Who controls this? You and I don't. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Alam tara, don't you see? Anna Allah anzala min as-sama'i ma'an. He is the one who sends down water from the heavens. فَسَلَكَهُ يَنَابِيعَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. And you will notice when this water comes down, springs are formed. Now, especially for those of you who have lived in mountains, you will know that there are certain springs which are controlled by the water. The amount of water that comes during the winter time. If there are enough deposits on the mountains, you will see springs running in the springtime or in the summer. If it doesn't rain much, you'll see dry springs. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I am the one who sends enough water for you to see springs. ثُمَّ يُخْرِجُ بِهِ زَرْعًا. And then you take that water from the springs and you take it in your farms and you cultivate them. So what happens as a result? You get your farms. زَرْعًا مُخْتَلِفًا أَلْوَانُهُ. You take the same water, but what is the color of wheat? What is the color of tomato? What is the color of onion? What is the color of potato? What is the color of cauliflower? Different colors of things comes out from the same soil, from the same water. They all get their feeding from the same place. You will also notice the two apple trees of the same brand right next to each other, but different amount of fruits come from each one of them. Sometimes you will notice that there are a lot of trees of the same type in the same farm, but some produce a better tasting apple than the other one. Same breed, same brand, everything is same. So it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who does whatever He wishes to be done. So He says, yes, you take it. ثُمَّ يُهِيجُ. Then they all grow strong. فَتَرَاهُ مُصْفَرًّا. Then you notice they all are yellowed out in fall time. ثُمَّ يَجْعَلُهُ حُطَامًا. And after they yellow down, what happens? They turn into dust particles and blow away. Blow away, as if they never existed. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَذِكْرَى لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Those people who think, for them in this whole process are great examples. What is this whole thing? This is the life cycle. If you notice, there are butterflies. If you look at the life cycle of certain butterflies, they travel every season from certain place like north, and they go all the way down to south. They have no other reason to go down south and reproduce, and then they all die out. Their whole sole goal is to produce the next generation. Then the next generation travels up here in the wintertime, and then they all live for 1 year. They travel back. They make sure that they reach the south in a certain time and reproduce, and that's it. So this whole cycle, who is controlling it? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is controlling it. And not only this, now these ayahs, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَكَأَيٍّ مِّنْ آيَةٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. There's so many signs in the heavens and the earth. يَمُرُّونَ عَلَيْهَا وَهُمْ عَنْهَا مُعْرِضُونَ. That they can see, but what is the end result? They turn away from me. They see it, they turn away. They see it and they turn away. وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. Now, tell me this, that there are things that you claim, that you know, that you have seen, that you have heard, that you have felt, but you have no knowledge about them. إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبُصْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. Each and everything that you possess, you are answerable for that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in some of the other ayahs, for example here, I would like to bring this ayah. This is one of the beauties of the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I am the one who created two kinds of lights. There is a light in the sun, and there is a light in the moon. But then there is a light in the sun that you cannot see, and then there is a light in the moon that you can see. So Quran distinguishes between them. هُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَ الشَّمْسَ ضِيَاءً. Diya comes from the word daw, extreme immense light that your eyes cannot bear. وَالْقَمَرَ نُورًا. Nur in this context is used as a reflected light. A lot of the time when you want to look at the sun, how do you look at it? You look at it in a mirror image. You look at it in a mirror image. So if you ever put a little mirror to show the reflection of the sun, it is much easier on your eyes to look at the mirror image of the sun than to directly look at the sun. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about two different kinds. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, why did I do this? لِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ. So that you can count your months and days. That's why I gave you two different systems. Now, how do I use sun in my daily life? If I am in the middle of nowhere, the rise of the sun is the rise of my day. The set of the sun is the end of my day. The rise of the moon tells me where am I in the month. Halfway through, first half, second half, new month. All of this I can control even if I have access to no calendar. I can just look at the moon and its phases and figure out where am I sitting. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا. Don't you think? وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. And within you, in your body, there's so much to explore. Now look at our genes. I still remember IBM came up with a mainframe to look at the human genes. It was the name of the computer was Blue Gene. It was a supercomputer. It was a mainframe, multi-million-dollar computer, just to understand human genes. And yet it was not ready to fully understand human genes. I'm talking about like 15, 16 years ago when they originally created it. They created that computer one half in the Midwest and the other half somewhere down southwest in California region. They actually created it in two halves. And each half was humongous. Humongous that it could calculate a prime number up to 300 pages long. Not digits. To understand what? Human gene. And what is the size of a human gene? Can you see it with the naked eye or is it microscopic? Ultra microscopic. Ultra microscopic. And that one gene, when contacts with another gene and a new human is born, how many traits carry over? And who computerized and programmed that small gene and multiplied it? Who controls all of that? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. Don't they think within themselves that how much there is within themselves to explore? I mean, like this last week, I came to know that in medical university, they're using virtual reality goggles. Instead of giving books or 2D pictures or videos, they're giving virtual reality goggles. So these medical students wear the virtual reality goggles, and it is up to them whichever part of the human body they want to see in the 3D model. So everything is virtual. Nothing is projected. But everything is right in their goggle. So if they want to see a stomach, so now they're looking at stomach, and with the spin of their hand, they're rotating the stomach, looking inside its lining, outside. Somebody may be looking at the heart. Somebody may be looking at something else. Or they may all be gathered around wearing their virtual reality goggles, and the instructor is presenting them a particular component of human body. So no actual human has to be there. No 2D pictures have to be there. No videos have to be shown. They're all analyzing that part virtually. So this is where the human brains are going. And who gave that knowledge to the human brain? How much knowledge that Didi would have, who gave this knowledge to our brains? To be able to do all of these things. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that when you ask them, who gives you everything? They will say, Allah. قُلْ مَنْ يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Who feeds you from the sky and who feeds you from the earth? أَمَّنْ يَمْلِكُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارِ. Who is the one who owns your eyes and your ears? وَمَنْ يُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ. Who is the one who brings to life a dead? وَيُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ. And who is the one who brings to death alive, or from life to death? وَمَنْ يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرِ. Who is the one who controls and regulates everything? And they will say, Allah. So why don't they think and ponder over that it is I who do everything? It is I who controls everything. And this is another example. Who is the one who brings a flower or a tree from a seed? أَن تُنْبِتُ شَجَرَهَا. Do you do it? Do you do it? Now if you notice, if you put 2 seeds in the ground and you give them enough water, sometimes certain plants die out. They just don't live. And others would live. Same land, same amount of water, same amount of sunlight. You will notice that there are certain farmers who are crying out loud with whatever happens on their land. Others are happy right next to them. Who controls all these things? Same land, same parcels, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala controls whatever He wants to control. أَإِلَهُمْ مَعَ اللَّهِ بَلْ هُمْ قَوْمٌ يَعْدِلُونَ. Is there another Lord who controls all of these things without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But the problem is, these guys are running away from the right path. And then there are a lot of examples. I mean, there are examples that are full of examples in Quran. And I would only like to bring in a few of them, because it is virtually not possible to look at each one of them and go over it in such a short span. I just wanted to bring a couple of other examples. Communication channels. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala communicates with beings other than human beings. And one of the examples Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives is in Surah An-Nahl, is the communication of Allah with the honeybee. And notice the word, I'm giving you an Arabic word, وَأَوْحَى رَبُّكَ. And your Rabb reveals to the honeybee, أَنْ أَتَّخِذِي مِنَ الْجِبَالِ بُيُوتًا وَمِنَ الشَّجَرِ. That go to the mountains, go to the tree, وَمِمَّا يَعْرِشُونَ. And go to the high places, like, we build big houses. If you notice, where does the honeybee build his nest? Or where do these wasps build their nest? They usually do not bring it closer to the ground. They usually build it up high. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, then we instruct the honeybee, ثُمَّ كُلِي. So first you should build your house. Then, ثُمَّ كُلِي مِن كُلِّ الثَّمَرَاتِ. Go out in that area, wherever you have built your nest, and start eating from the fruits and start eating from the flowers. And then, فَاسْلُكِي subul. Remember your path. Because there may be a lot of houses, but a honeybee never goes to somebody else's house. If there are multiple nests, a bee returns back to its own nest. فَاسْلُكِي سُبُلَ رَبِّكَ ذُلُولًا. And go on the clean routes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for you. What does that mean? If a bee eats from a wrong flower or a wrong tree and comes back to the nest, the existing bees kill it. The existing bees kill it. And do not let any bee spoil the recipe. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done all of these things. And what do they do after they eat? Whatever they extract out, يَخْرُجُ مِن بُطُونِهَا, from their stomach, whatever they extract out, شَرَابٌ مُخْتَلِفٌ أَلْوَانُهُ, that comes honey of different colors. You've seen honeys of different colors. Some are darker, some are lighter, right? Same region. مُخْتَلِفٌ أَلْوَانُهُ فِيهِ شِفَاءٌ لِلنَّاسِ. For them, it is extra waste. But for you, it is a cure. For you, it's a cure. إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. In this are the signs for the people who think. That who treats this honeybee to make an exact shape? If you ever notice, all cells are same shape. No bee would ever make a square. And if you take a measurement, it's a perfect measured square. This is a perfect measured shape. And all of them make that. It's not just like one kind of bees which would make that shape and others will not. They all make perfect shape and they store it. There is a tremendous amount of research that has been done recently, which I happen to read, is that why do they pick the shape that they pick? This is an octagon, right? Because according to mathematics, that shape can store the most amount of liquid than any other shape. If they could have made squares or rectangle, they could not have maximized the space. That shape allows them to maximize the space. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَوْحَى رَبُّكَ, I revealed to them. The revelation comes to these things, it doesn't make them a prophet, but it's an instruction that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives directly. Even in humans, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given instructions, but have not promoted people to a prophethood. Look at the example of Maryam alayhi salam. Was she not instructed that when she had Jesus in her tummy, and the Jesus was not yet delivered, and she was getting worried that what's going to happen? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to her that tell people that I will not going to speak. I'm fasting, which will going to refrain me from speaking. But that did not promote her to a prophethood. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has some forms of revelations, but not all revelation will going to make somebody a prophet. But Allah does reveals in the hearts of individuals. So what we're going to do next time, inshaAllah ta'ala, we will going to next time go into the alamul khalq and alamul amr and look at the 7 stages of the creation of Adam alayhi salam through the process of evolution, which is an alamul khalq, not alamul amr. خَلَقَ آدَمُ مِن تُرَابٍ. I created Adam. So since creation through the word khalq means it has to come from existing entities, so it is a wrong perception that people think that everything that was created in a snap. It's a wrong perception. That's why ulama of these times have actually gone back in the Quran and have explained this ideology that not everything came in a snap. There are things that pertains to alamul amr, they came in a snap, kun fayakun. But in alamul khalq, things came through a process. And that's where we look at the Big Bang Theory. That when everything scattered, and then the planet Earth had an entire process of cooling down. Certain gases were released, So this entire process is the process of evolution of the planet Earth. And after the process was over, when Earth cooled down, then certain things were produced on this planet. Then there was a process through which the planet Earth came to an extent where it is sustainable for human living. And then when humans were sent down, the environment was human friendly. So this whole process was a process. So we're only going to look at the creation of Adam alayhi salam and what are the 7 stages, and they all have been described in Quran, but just not in one place. That's why Quran uses 7 different terminologies when talk about the creation of Adam alayhi salam, and that's why some people have been confused. They ask, what kind of book is this? Sometimes it says Adam was created from sand, sometimes it says created from water, sometimes it says created from clay, sometimes it says created from dry structure. What's going on? How can you have so many different things talking about the same thing? So that's what it is. It is a process of evolution through which Adam was created. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إننا كنا من الظالمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.